Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for agreeing to serve as a community review panelist for the Metro Arts Thrive program for fiscal year 2023. My name is Chuck Beard. I'm the Artist and Organizational Support Coordinator for Metro Arts, and I'm just going to go over a little bit of background information about Thrive as a program, the scoring criteria that you will be reviewing as panelists, and how to review and score applications in the submittable system. So I just wanted to start with a brief overview about what the Thrive program is. Thrive is a funding program that exists separate from Metro Arts grant funding programs, which means that it's open to more than just 501c3 nonprofit organizations. So the goal of Thrive is to build, strengthen, and cultivate communities in Nashville and Davidson County by supporting artist-led projects that encourage artistic and cultural experiences, community investment, and neighborhood transformation. Thrive was originally envisioned as a creative placemaking program. Over the past few years, with pivots for the COVID-19 pandemic, it has expanded to include a broader idea of community, not specifically just tied to a place, but also serving communities of people converging virtually as well as in person. We also have had some Thrive projects working with K through 12 students who may be geographically located all across Nashville, but are engaging virtually as a sense of community online. But regardless of the definition of community, a successful Thrive project will promote artistic excellence, impact neighborhoods or communities, actively engage residents or members of those communities in the planning and art making process so the members of that community are involved in the creation of that art, and promote cultural equity. And you can learn more about our Thrive program and past projects and artists awarded on our website at www.metroartnashville.com/thrive. So Thrive, along with everything we do at Metro Arts, is meant to support our three overall outcomes, which is to create vibrant creative neighborhoods, stronger creative workers, and deeper cultural participation. And all three of these support our overall vision for Metro Arts for a creative life for all Nashvillians. So the fiscal year 2023, which is the year we are in now, running from July 2022 through June 2023, will have two funding categories. Both Category 1 and Category 2 will have projects taking place between January 1st, 2023 through June 15th, 2023. Category 1 projects may apply up to $9,500, and they are community-based projects that include collaborations between artists and community partners and organizations. Category 1 projects are open to individual artists and artist teams and to nonprofit and for-profit organizations. Category 2 projects may apply up to $5,000, and they are artist incubators that focus on artists who are newer to community practice and/or Metro Arts funding. So I wanted to go over some of the project and eligibility guidelines. One thing to remember is that you, as the community review panelist, are not responsible for reviewing applications for eligibility. Metro Arts staff has already done that, so the applications that are coming to you to review have already been checked to make sure they meet the eligibility guidelines. But it is good to have an overview of what the project guidelines are as you review your applications. So the most important thing to remember is the idea that Thrive projects are community focused. We see that idea of community focus in several ways for successful projects. Number one, partnerships with other artists, organizations, businesses, and/or neighborhood groups are required. Number two, projects must be open to the public, accessible and welcoming to people of all cultural backgrounds, economic status, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, and ability. Number three, a community design process must inform some aspect of art so the community members are engaged with the process of art making. Number four, previously created artworks, performances, or creative content are not eligible. We are wanting to fund artists who are working with communities to create something new. That said, sometimes artists will go into a community and perform traditional art forms or music, and that would be okay, but it just can't be an already existed copywritten work. Depending on the category and amount of funds awarded to each project, use of funds have specific guidelines too. Funds can be used for artist fees, project coordinator fees, and non-durable project/program supplies. Stuff that won't outlive the project itself, like paint or paper, but not the actual easels. Basically, the funds can't be used for anything else but the projects. This is a different pool of grants used for this funding. So the funding is essentially used to pay artists. So we can pay artists and project coordinators and those non-durable supplies, but that's about all we can use the funding for. So when you see in the budgets that some projects, all there is are the artist funds and some have other costs, so fundraising and community partnerships may cover those other costs. A couple of other things you don't really need to worry so much about as you are reviewing, but Metro Arts staff are checking for this in the application stage and for funding the projects. Any projects resulting in a public artwork require the approval of the Metro Arts Public Art Committee and a plan for long-term maintenance and/or removal of the artwork. The public art projects have an additional form attached to the application that goes over the logistics for that. And then any projects that work directly with youth or in youth settings do require background checks. And so we have an additional youth form that is attached to the application that if those folks have background checks or if they are willing to get that done, and if that project is awarded, that's part of the award process before we pay the artist. We make sure that contract is complete. And if something has come up in the background check, that doesn't mean we are not automatically not going to work with that person. It just requires further review from Metro Arts. Again, you don't need to worry about screening for eligibility of each project, but just so you know, eligible applicants are individual artists or artist teams, businesses or organizations. Anyone applying must be 18 years or older, and applicants must be located in or primarily work in Davidson County. So applicants who would not be eligible would be any organizations or projects that are being funded by a grant from Metro Arts. Again, Thrive is separate from our grants program. It's a different pot of money, so no one can double dip. This is something staff is checking for. Previously funded Thrive projects, we don't want to fund the same exact thing again. We are trying to see new projects. Artists who are under contract for Metro Arts Public Arts Commissions, again, this is something Metro Arts staff is checking for. And then any applicants or their immediate family, household members who are serving as an employee of Metro Nashville Davidson County or Metro Nashville Public Schools, or who are serving as a member of the Metro Board of Commissioners or Public Art Committee. And so that's so we don't have a conflict of interest. And that's because Metro can't pay people in two ways. These are just more things we want you to be aware of surrounding this process. We do recommend that you check out some of our previously funded Thrive projects. You can see several examples from the past on our website at www.metroartsnashville.com/thrive. So let's go over the application components because this is where you come in. Some folks have applied using that Thrive application on Submittable. So they have filled out their Submittable form, and I'll show in just a few minutes about how you'll go in and review what they have filled out. Also attached is their completed Thrive application, artist supporting materials, artist resumes or CVs, one letter of recommendation, which is someone not involved in the project who can speak to the lead artist or project coordinator about how they can speak to the ability to carry out the project to completion. One letter of support, which is usually someone involved as a community partner in the project. If it's a public art project, sometimes this letter of support is the property owner, where the public art will be displayed showing that they support the project. There is also a budget form, which is a form that is built in or it's uploaded, they can upload one of their own. So as you scroll through the application and you find that the budget form when you open it is blank, please scroll down a little bit further, and sometimes they have attached their own budget form. They will also attach a timeline form, and if the applicant checked yes for public art, then it will pop those up. So you'll see in these applications that these are extra questions for public art. Same thing if the project will engage with youth. If If they answered yes to that question, additional questions will be populated. Basically, you'll see some additional questions there. And if you have trouble once you get into the application locating the budget, or if you're like, why is this person's budget blank? Please feel free to contact me so our team can show you where to find all of those different components. Here's a quick timeline of the application process. Applications for all Thrive projects were due on August 29th, 2022 at noon Central Time. The initial eligibility review by Metro Arts staff happened between August 29th and September 2nd. And then the community panel review is where y'all come in. Between the time you are watching this video and September 28th, you will be reviewing the applications. We will all meet virtually on Zoom on September 29th and 30th to discuss the applications and to finalize your scores. And from there, Metro Arts staff will take your scores, use them to create a ranking of the applications, and based on that ranking, the Metro Arts commissioners at their meeting will determine how much of the recommended funding is given to each project who has applied. That meeting will happen in October, and the awards will be announced by October 21st, 2022. So we'll go over the application scoring. Each application can get a maximum of 20 points, and there are 4 categories that are worth up to 5 points each. These categories are artistic excellence, community engagement and placemaking, feasibility and logistics, and cultural equity. And you can see the full scoring rubric in the Thrive Guidelines, and we are going to go over the full rubric on the next few slides. But when you get into the application and you are starting to review, the rubric is included in the scoring form. So as you're reading, you'll be able to look back and see the criteria for each of the categories on the rubric and use that as you score the application. So up to 5 points are available for artistic excellence. And to get the full 5 points, this is what we would be looking for. A professional artist is leading the project, and we define professional artists as individuals or a group of artists who practice in the unique creation and public display or performance of visual arts, craft, sound and performance art, film and television, theater, dance, music, or literary arts, and can demonstrate at least 2 years of exhibition, performance, or professional artistic history. So we are looking at the artist resume or artist CV to see that 2 years of professional artistic history are available. Also, the artists involved in this project have a strong artistic vision. There's a demonstration of artist-led community involvement. So the artist is engaging the community in the design and creation of the artworks. And the artists have a demonstrated commitment to the project and are named in the budget. So this doesn't mean that everyone involved in the project has to be specifically named in the budget, but we do want to see that the lead artist is clearly identified and they have an idea who their supporting artists are going to be, who is going to be involved in the project. So up to 5 points are available for community engagement and placemaking. So again, this is thinking about creative placemaking through works of art. So to get the maximum of 5 points, we would want to see on the application a community and or a neighborhood, physical place, is directly engaged or impacted by the project. And again, this could be a specific neighborhood of Nashville, say like a project involved at the Edge Hill community, or because we had more virtual communities happen during COVID-19, this may be a targeting a specific community group within Nashville. There should be a demonstrated knowledge and understanding of a community's needs that's clear in this application. There should be a demonstration of how a community's need is informing the project and how the community will be impacted by the project. Again, this could be a neighborhood or a community. There should be a demonstration of committed community partners. So this isn't just an artist going into a community with no knowledge of that community. They are working with that community and community partners, and there's a clear demonstration of how community partners contribute to the success of this project. And then there is up to 5 points awarded for feasibility and logistics. So this means that there is a feasible timeline for the project. When you review this project, that it seems feasible to you that they can accomplish all of the project activities by mid-June. That there's a feasible budget for the project. When you open up the budget form, it makes sense what they are paying and what they've allocated for funding for what they need. That the project plan and components are clearly formed and communicated. that they have a data collection plan in place, and that their project has clear goals so they can show that they are going to be able to evaluate the success of their project. They should have a demonstration of qualified project coordinators and or artists to lead the project. So not just is there a talented artist involved, but there is someone who's going to make this happen and do logistical work. It may be the same person. And if necessary, they should have a plan for adherence to social distancing and health and safety recommendations. So there is a question in the application of how will this project work with social distancing to keep everyone safe? What's your backup plan? And so take a look at that, because that can take account in the feasibility and logistics score. And then we also have up to 5 points available for cultural equity. So how the project exhibits the commitment of people who have been historically underrepresented or left out in mainstream arts funding, discourse, leadership, and resource allocation, including but not limited to people of color, people of all ages, differently abled people, LGBTQ+ people, women, and the socioeconomically disadvantaged. We are looking at how projects can advance cultural equity through these projects. And the most important element here is that the project design and components move past simple representation and addresses the unequal nature of voice, resource allocation, and visibility that exists in the arts and cultural ecosystem. So we're looking for projects that are uplifting underrepresented voices, that are including groups and communities who are not usually in these art spaces. So really looking at and engaging the community as part of the creation of that artwork. And cultural equity is an important value at Metro Arts. This is an excerpt from our cultural equity statement. We encourage you to go to metroartsnashville.com/equity to read our full equity statement and to really keep this in mind as you're reviewing applications, because this is a really guiding principle behind everything that we strive to do. All right, so we've gone over the ideas behind Thrive. We've gone over the scoring criteria. Now let's talk about how to use Submittable to actually go in and read and score the applications. So I've got some screenshots here in this PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to send you a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation so you can refer to these as you get on your computer and you log into Submittable. If you need any help figuring any of this out, send me an email and we can set up a Zoom chat and I can share my screen and kind of walk you through it in real time, or you can share your screen, and sometimes it can be easier to do it if someone walks you through it. I'm happy to do that, or both, but just let me know if you need any help with this. But to get into Submittable, you're gonna go to the link that I sent you in an email, and it's here on your screen too at Metro Arts Submittable login page. And you'll enter your username and password that you created when you made an account to submit your interest form, your panelist information form. So when you log into Submittable, often you will see your list of assigned submissions right when you log in. If for some reason you don't, you can click Submissions at the top of the page. It's circled on the screen here in yellow, and that should lead you to the list of assigned submissions that you'll need to review. And then once you see that list of submissions, to open one of the applications, you just click on the title of it. So you'll see here in the screenshot, I'm clicking on Test Thrive Project, and it will open up that application. So once you're into the application, the screen is divided into two panels. On the left is the actual application form that the applicant has completed, and on the right are a series of different options. There are activity, reviews, messages, and funds. The one that you'll need to worry about is reviews. So you'll open the application and you'll see the application on the left, and you'll go over to the right pane and click on reviews, and that will show you the reviews that have been completed. And if you click on my review, it will open up the review form that you will fill out and have the scoring rubric there. When you first click it, the first question that it will ask will be if you have a conflict of interest. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, but if you do see that you have a conflict of interest, you'll click yes, I do, or no, I don't. If you click no, I don't, the rest of the review form will appear. So now you can see in this screenshot that the review form has appeared there on the right, and so you'll be able to scroll up and down on the left side to read the application. And you'll be able to scroll up and down on the right side through the review form. And you'll see for each section, there's the list of criteria for each of the domains. So for artistic excellence, it's got the list of criteria there, and you'll select if that application gets between 0 and 5 points for artistic excellence, 0 being the least and 5 being the most. 5 would mean that they meet all the criteria for that domain. Underneath each of the scoring criteria, there's a text box where you can enter comments. It's optional if you want to enter comments or not, but it can often help you organize your thoughts for the panel discussion. There will also be a place for you to enter any feedback you may have for the applicant if that's something you would like to do. That is also not required. You'll be able to save a draft of your review as you go. So if you start an application and you get interrupted, then you can hit the save button and come back to it and work on it later. Once you complete it, you can click finalize review at the bottom of the screen. So once you click finalize review, it will show your total score there next to your name. And it's also keeping a running tally of the average score up at the top, so you'll be able to see that for the application. If you want to make a change to your review after you've submitted your review, you can just click My Review and make changes and click Update Review, and you'll be able to do this during the panel review discussion as well. If you get into discussion and you're like, you know what, I didn't consider that, or I want to change the section from a 3 to a 4, you can actually do that during the panel review discussion. You can go in and update your review. So once all that's done, your review is complete. You can go up to back to list there in the top left of the screenshot to go back to the list of overall applications. You can also click those arrows at the top of the page where it says 1 of 11 and just go onto the next application. Then you can click that right facing arrow and it will take you to the next assigned application. So if you click back to list and it takes you back to the main list page, you can go on to the next application by clicking on the title, and you'll see that Submittable will tally the final scores beside each application as folks are reviewing. So conflicts of interest. If you open up an application and you realize that you know this person or you know someone involved in the project, if you or any of your household members or people you live with have a personal or business relationship to the applicant, the organization applying, or any of the artists or individuals involved in the project, the first question in the review pane is, do you have a conflict of interest here? If you do, click I have a conflict of interest. It will then hide the rest of the form, and then you just don't continue reading or evaluating that application. And during the panel review discussion, as a group, we'll ask that you either mute or take a break, or if you want to listen in, then we ask that you don't participate in that discussion in any way. If you have a question about what qualifies as a conflict of interest, you can email me and we can kind of talk through it. So if you're not sure, please let me know. Thank you. So you will have a few weeks to read through each of the applications you're assigned and review them with all of the components. You'll need to score the application using the review pane in the submittable form. And again, you're going to select a score between 0 to 5, which 0 is the lowest and 5 is the highest score possible, meeting the components of each of the domains. You can add comments, but those comments are not required. And if you have any feedback for the applicants, that isn't required either, but it can be very helpful for applicants as they move forward on their creative journey or strengthen their application for future grants or years ahead. We do ask that you have all of your reviews completed and submitted in the submittable system in advance of the panel meeting group discussion for your scores to be counted. So a reminder that you will be able to change your scores by editing your review during the panel review discussion, but we need you to have submitted that initial score before you come to the panel review meeting, just so we know that you have read through every application assigned and coming to the panel review meeting prepared. So some application review tips, especially for folks who have not applied for our grants themselves, or this is your first time reviewing a grant or funding application. It can be a little overwhelming to just dive into this application form. We understand that. So I like to recommend for folks to start with the project description and narrative questions text field. So you might scroll down a little bit to find that project description and read through that, and then read through some of the fields that come after that about the community partners and the other artists involved in the project. Towards the bottom of the application, that's where you're going to find the artist's work samples and additional documents, those letters of support and letters of recommendation, samples of artistic work, the artist's resumes and CVs. Those are down at the bottom of the application. And then the application has a built-in budget form that folks can fill out. They also have the ability to upload a separate budget attachment form. So again, if you open up the budget form and it looks blank, scroll down one more field and see if they have attached their own budget form. And remember that Metro Arts staff have already reviewed for eligibility, so you don't need to worry about the project if the project is eligible for Thrive. And you can focus on the scoring criteria and how well does the project meet the philosophy of what the Thrive program is meant to do. And you can ask Metro Arts staff for help if you can't find something or have questions about how to view or review an application element. But please do feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions throughout this review process. So we do ask that you have reviewed and scored all of your assigned applications before the panel review Zoom meeting. The reason we do that is that we want to be mindful of your time. We want to be able to get through these panel discussions in a couple of hours. This means we're only going to have like 6 to 8 minutes of discussion per application. So you need to be really familiar with the projects before you come to the panel discussion and have those reviews completed. You may update your scores during the discussion, as we've mentioned, and because of that, for a logistical standpoint, I really recommend having your Zoom screen open and being logged into Submittable at the same time during the meeting, so you can be participating during the discussion and also be able to change your scores if you're wanting to do so at that time. Then you'd be able to do so. If you have any trouble with that process during the panel discussion, we will have Metro Arts staff there on the meeting who can help you. But that's just my recommendation if you can make that work. Again, not required, just a suggestion. So that's really the overview. If you have any questions as you start this process, you can email me. My email address is right there on the screen. I'm also more than happy to set up a Zoom or a phone call. Again, if you want to get into Submittable and share your screen as I talk you through it, or you want to see me scroll through my computer screen, I'm totally happy to do either of those things for you. We are just so grateful that you agreed to be on this community panel. Folks like you are what makes projects like this even happen. Our community members are the ones who are making the funding recommendations to the Metro Arts Commission. The Metro Arts Commission then makes the final determinations about what gets funded, but it's you all who are deciding which projects you think deserve to get the money. So we are really, really happy that you agreed to do this. We are very grateful for your time and energy, and Metro Arts staff is here for you. Thanks again.